So we have our kit. We're just going to unwrap it and see what we've got. You can always keep the twine and use the twine as well. So the first thing we have is the instructions. On yours you will have a QR code there, which means that you can actually use your phone just to zap the QR code, and then you can watch a film, although you know that because you're watching this, but for other ones as well. We have pictorial instructions. You have your template as well, which you're going to trace first of all, and then we have our 6-inch hoop and your ribbon, some twine to hang it with. We have all the colours that you will need of the thread and an embroidery needle, and you have enough to do a front and a back of your fabric, and you have your little button as well. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the ribbon off here, make sure that that's unscrewed, but the first thing I've got to do is to go and get a little bit of sellotape and sellotape that to the window and put the fabric over it to draw around it. The best thing to use is something, if you have a friction pen, they're brilliant. You can actually see through it, but if you use a window or you have a light box, then that's brilliant. A window is just as good. You need some sellotape for the sheet and some sellotape for the fabric. If you haven't got a friction pen or a pen that disappears, you can get the ones that disappear after so long, but obviously you have to make sure that you're going to finish your project within that time. Then you can use a pencil, which is what we've used, and we will show you how to move forward. Okay, so on this little part we're going to do the satin stitch of the bee. So satin stitch is sort of a long stitch. So we're going to follow the long stitches across the bee's body and build those up to make the yellow and the black stripes. So we're using our thread in 2-strand thickness, and we're just sort of following the shape of the body here. I do think the bees are gorgeous. It's something that everybody likes, you know, whether they have a particular sentimental reason or, you know, but it just reminds you of summer with all the flowers and everything in the garden. So I'm just going to do a couple more on this, and then I'm going to swap and change colour to the black. Okay, so that's the satin stitch. We've gone for the long stitch across just to show you, you know, if you wanted to try something different, there is the short stitches that go down, but I actually think it's more accurate and it looks better to do the satin stitch long stitches across. Okay, so you can keep having a practice at these ones, and that's to sort of, I'm going to just go over that one. I want to sort of get all those really neat. So for the legs, they are quite sort of delicate. What we're going to use is a whipped back stitch. So we don't want them too thick, but we do want them to stand out. So another glorious day here in Scarborough. We've had horrendous rain. All through the night, etc. Okay, so when you've sort of finished the sort of the leg part, then you can just do the whipping. I'm going to so come up, and then you're going to use going in, just catching the top of each stitch, but do it the same way each time, otherwise you'll end up with a lacy, a lacy look. And although they do move, don't they, so we don't kind of want them to look all shaky. So I think that looks better with the one strand than the two strand, but again it just gives you that look. Now I'm going to sort of knot it off and do the other legs so that you don't see the thread through the front. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the flowers on this embroidery now, and we've sort of got doing a extended sort of lazy daisy stitch, if you like. So you're going to come up at the center of the flower, so you can sort of see where your pencil marks are, or your friction pen marks are. You sort of hold the loop and you're going to go back in as close to that point you can. Now be careful, don't pull it all through quickly, because what you want to do is to take the shape of that petal. So your anchoring stitch is going to come up at the top of the petal, but it's also going to come up inside that loop, and then obviously that will then hold that stitch to the shape of the petal, so it covers up your marks as well. That looks very pretty, and then you just go back down so that anchors that lazy daisy there. Okay, so this cotton that I'm using at the moment is a variegated pink one, so it will have shades of dark and shades of light in this particular flower. Okay, and then you come up at the end, you can sort of see where your marking is, make sure it's right at the longest point, and then as you sort of pull, it takes sort of that shape. Okay, don't pull it too tight because it'll pucker your fabric, and you don't want to do that. So you continue around. That's a bit of a light getting in the way. And make these petals, and they are very satisfying to do because they look so pretty, and they just get the exact shape that you want that matches your outline. So you just have to come up, but make sure that you come up inside that loop, and then as you pull it snug, it will take the shape. Don't pull it too tight, as I say, just ease it gently, and then you're going to go sort of under that stitch, but making sure you don't go through a previous stitch, because otherwise it'll get cotted up. Next thing we're going to look at is our leaves, should I say. There are sort of two different stitches that you could do for the leaves, so you can try both, you can see which effect they both have, and then decide yourself which you like, which is what I like about having a kit. You can sort of look at different methods, but then choose your individual way, the one that you like and the one that you feel that you get on with the best. Okay, just got two more to do on this. So that's the flower stitch that you're going to be doing on this sampler. So this is one of the long stitches for the leaf, similar to the long stitch that you've had on your bee. So you're going to come up obviously with securing your thread behind, at the base of the leaf, and the first stitch you do is the longest one, so the long stitch right to the end. Now the trick with these, as you probably found with the bee as well, is making sure that you get them close enough. If you don't get them close enough, then you have gaps, and if you have gaps, you just have to sort of keep doing it. So the idea with the leaf is to make the shape is going to be to keep doing the stitch, but then you get slightly smaller so that you fill in the shape of the leaf. Okay, you can sort of start from one and go to each side, go from the central point each time, or you can do it this way. So this is how we're doing this one. Okay, so then once you've done one side, you're going to go back to the center and work your way out to the other side. Again, making each stitch sort of slightly smaller at both ends than the other one, but keeping it very, very tight, close in width. And then you'll get a nice sort of full leaf looking shape. And if you find you've done it where you've got it too loose, then just go back and sort of, you can either sort of take it out and do it, or you can fill it in. It's a bit like drawing. So we're sort of getting there actually with that shape. Maybe one more, and then what we could do with a slightly lighter colour, green, is that you do sort of one long stitch down the centre to give it the vein. So that's the long sort of stitch, or the satin stitch for the leaf. Okay, so the other way to do your leaves is a fly stitch. So I'm just going to come down a little bit first because I just want to have the pointy bit of the leaf there. And with fly stitch, you come up in one corner, you go down on the other. Don't go down yet though, because you need to come up and catch that loop. So come further down the leaf. My fabric's gone a little bit slack there, but you need to sort of keep it a little bit tight. And then you go back up. So to create the sort of the Y effect, you have to come further down the leaf in the center to then go up at the sides, if you know what I mean. So again, before we're going to just pull that in, we're just gonna come up here, and then that will pull that fly down. And you can make them closer together to make it a nice sort of denser leaf. It just makes a slightly different shape. You may want to use it, you may not. You may want to just have a go and then sort of unpick it. It's entirely up to you. I do like the long stitch for the leaf in actual fact, but this just, it gives it a bit of variation. You might have something different growing. So that's sort of the showing you in a bigger scale, if you like. If you have a look here, that's the same sort of principle, but we've just used it a little bit closer together. So I just wanted to make it so that you could actually see where the stitches were going. So I'm going to carry on finishing this one, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the French knots in the middle of the daisies, and then we're nearly there. So you should see your embroidery begin to come to life, and it's, yeah, I love it when you can sort of start seeing, you know, what it's going to look like. So the center of the big flowers, and the little flowers are the same sort of daisy stitch, chain stitch without the chain, but the center has got French knots in it. The smaller ones might be a little bit tricky. I haven't put them in those ones because I think they're too small. So I thought the best colour to show you this in would be the black, but we shall see. So you come up in the middle of your flower, and then you're going to sort of just make a little stitch there. Can you see what I've done? Now what you're actually doing is wrapping the thread around the end of the needle. So that's 1 and 2. So as you pull this through, then the knot will tighten up. So I'm hoping you'll be able to see. I've got a very long piece of cotton here. And what you can actually do is just ease it down with your needle. So as you pull it tight, just make sure that those loops are going down, and then you put a stitch back through to secure it. So that's a French knot. Now if you have bigger gaps in the middle of your flowers, you may be able to fit, I think they're in the bottom one there is 2 or 3, I think there. Some I have smaller gaps, I have literally sort of 1. It depends how you like it. You might just like to just highlight the centre bit. I think that does need another one. I'll do another one so I can show you. So you're literally coming up, you go down and come up again in the same movement, and then it's about wrapping around that needle. So that's 1, that's 2. I'll just go for 2. Sometimes you can go for 3 if you want a bigger knot. It does get trickier to sort of move it along the thread if you have more knots, if you like. Okay, so we're just going to pull that through and just do it gently, and then as you get close you can sort of ease it down. You see? And then you make the stitch back down to the back to secure it in place. So that's almost like this, the sort of the seed head of the little sunflower, if you like, and they just sort of finish it off. So those you can sort of do in contrasting colours. The black looks very, very nice with the yellow. You can use sort of the lighter green for the lighter pink ones, and then when you've got the darker one, you can use sort of the light green that you've got for the vein there. So you can have a little experiment with that. So that's French knots, and that's what we've done for the centre of those. 2 or 3, and we're on 2 strands in your needle, and that's sort of finishing your flowers off. So there you have it. You've done all your flowers, you've done your bee, and the last thing to do is to sort of tighten it up, make sure that it's all pulled nice and tightly. And when you look at the back, what you can do is use the other piece of fabric to just cover the back. After you've pressed it, put it back in the hoop, make sure it's all nice and tight, and just trim so that it's an even size all the way around, and just run a little running stitch, and then you can gather all that in. So that just sort of tidies that up. If you really wanted to, you could you know, have a piece of cream felt on the back there if you've got one, but that just sort of neatens it off, and then you can see that you can't see any of the stitches. Tie a bow, or you can however you want to attach it. You might want to attach it further down, and you've got a lovely little button that's there that says handmade with love. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Please have a look, we have other projects as well, and I would love to see your creations. You can email them to me on thewoodcottagecrafts@gmail.com. If you would like to have a look at our other kits, it's on our website, which is www.thewoodcottagecrafts.com. Have a lovely day. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.